Okay, so this is lesson 3 of unit 1 in Algebra 2. The lesson is called Writing Systems of Inequalities. So it's pretty much the reverse of lesson 2. So for these problems, you're going to be given a graph. You're going to have a system of inequalities, and you're going to have to write what the system is. Now, for all of these problems, your first step is to identify the slope and the y-intercept. So I'm going to write that right here. So first, identify the slope and y-intercept. Okay, so just to make it easier going forward, I'm going to refer to this line right here as line number 1, and I'll call this line number 2. Okay, so let's start with line number 1. Identify the slope and y-intercept of that line. So this right here will be the y-intercept. Okay, so I'm going to say slope equals, and b for y-intercept. The y-intercept is -1. We just established that. The y-intercept is -1. The slope is going to be, you want to find another point you can easily get the coordinates of. Like, for example, this point right there, you can easily get the coordinates of that point. So from here to here, you're counting up 1, 2, 3, 4, right 1, so the slope is 4. Okay. So let's go ahead. Let's do the slope and y-intercept for line number 2 right now as well. So for line number 2, the y-intercept is going to be 2, and the slope is going to be up 1, right 1, so the slope is going to be 1. So slope equals 1, the y-intercept is going to be 2. So that's the easy part of the problem. The hard part is figuring out what sign you're going to have. Is it going to be less than? Is it going to be greater than? Is it going to be less than or equal to? Greater than or equal to? Now, you can try to use the shortcut that I taught you in lesson 2. Okay, so for line number 1, you're shading above that line, so it's going to be greater than. And since it's solid, it's going to be greater than or equal to. Okay? But if you forgot the shortcut, you're going to have to do this right here. So this is in case you forget the shortcut. What you want to do is you want to identify any point in the shaded region. So I'm going to use this point right there. I'm going to use the point 0, 3. Okay. When you test 0, 3, that must be true. Because it's in the shaded region. So meaning, here's what I have. I have y. We don't know what the sign is unless you use the shortcut. Then you know what the sign is. Okay, but we don't know what the sign is right now. mx plus b, we have 4x minus 1. Now, when you test your point in the shaded region, it must be true. So meaning, you're going to replace the x with 0. You're going to replace the y with 3. So when you do out the math, you have 3. 4 times 0 is 0, minus 1 is -1. You have 3 being compared with -1. Now, what sign goes in there? 3 is greater than -1, so it's going to be greater than. And it's going to be greater than or equal to because it's solid. So this is the sign you're going to use. Okay. And now let's do the same thing for the other line. We're going to use the same test point from the shaded region. We'll use 0, 3. When you test that, it must be true. So we have y. We don't know what the sign is. mx plus b. mx, so 1x or just x plus b. Replace the y with 3. Replace the x with 0. You have 3 being compared with 2. Well, 3 is greater than 2, and this line is dashed, so it's just going to be greater than. But again, you don't have to do that if you remember the shortcut. Greater than means shade above, less than means shade below. But now we can get to our final answer. Line number 1 is going to be y is greater than or equal to mx plus b, 4x minus 1. Line number 2, y is greater than mx plus b. So mx, 1x plus 2. I'll just put x plus 2. That's how you do these. So I have 4 examples. Let's go through all 4. I'll go a little quicker once we do a couple of them. So I'll go a little quicker on this one. For example 2, I'm going to call this line number 1. I'll refer to it like that going forward. I'll call this one line number 2. Okay, let's start with line number 1 and identify the slope and the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is going to be, line number 1 is right here. This is the y-intercept right there, 2. And the slope's going to be up 2, right 1. So the slope's going to be 2. So the y-intercept is 2 and the slope is 2. Let's do the other line. The y-intercept is going to be -3. Okay, and then identify another point you can easily get the coordinates of. In this case, I'll say this point right there you can easily see. So slope is down 1, right 2. So slope is -1/2. And the y-intercept we said was -3. Now, if you know the shortcut, line number 1 you have to shade above, and line number 2 you're shading above. So for both of these, you're shading above. So you can go and use the shortcut if you want. That's fine. If you forget the shortcut, you're going to have to pick a test point. So I'll just do it out in case you forgot the shortcut. Let's test any point in the shaded region. I'll go with -4, 1. So you're going to test -4, 1. That must be true. Test -4, 1 must be true. So the first line, y, we don't know the sign yet. mx plus b, 2x plus 2. Replace the y with 1. Replace the x with -4. See if that's true or false. 1, you don't know the sign. -8 plus 2 is -6. So what sign goes there? Well, 1 is greater than that. And since it's solid, we're going to do greater than or equal to. So the other inequality, y, we don't know the sign. mx plus b, -1/2 x minus 3. Okay, we're going to replace y with 1. Replace the x with -4. And then see what you get. The 1 stays. -1/2 times -4 is 2. 2 minus 3 is -1. 1 is greater than -1. And since it's dashed, I'm just going to leave greater than, no equal to symbol. Now let's write our final answer. We're running out of room right here, but for the first one, y is greater than or equal to mx plus b, so 2x plus 2. Bottom one, y is greater than -1/2 x minus 3. Okay, so I just got a phone call there on my class phone, so I was kind of interrupted right there. But anyway, that's the end of that problem. Y is greater than -1/2 x minus 3. And then the top one. Okay, let's try, we have two more. Oh, this one's a little easier. Good. Okay. Let's start with, let's call this line number 1. Let's call this line number 2. Now, I think line number 1 is actually pretty easy because it's a vertical line. So let's start with line number 1. I consider the vertical and horizontal lines the easiest ones. Now, you should know, whenever you have a vertical line, it's always x. It's either x equals a number, or x is less than a number, x is greater than a number, x is less than or equal to a number. It's always x, okay? The number is -2, okay? The question is, what sign goes in front of it? This one, just think logically. If this is -2, this is -1, that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're shading greater than that, so it's going to be greater than. So I consider the vertical and horizontal lines the easiest ones. Okay. So now let's try line number 2. It has a y-intercept of 2, and you're going to go down 1, right 2. So the y-intercept we said was 2. The slope down 1, right 2 means -1/2. Okay. And now we're going to use a test point for this one, or you can use the shortcut. Since you're shading above, it means greater than. If you're shading below, it means less than. So we're shading above, but just in case you don't remember the shortcut, let's use a test point. I'll test any point in the shaded region. I'll go with that right there. Let's test 2, 3. It must be true. Again, this is to help if you forget the shortcut. So we have y. You don't know the sign. -1/2 x plus 2. Replace the y with 3. Replace the x with 2. -1/2 times 2 is -1. -1 plus 2 equals 3. Did I say 3? I meant to say -1/2 times 2 is -1 plus 2 is 1. That should be 1 right there. Okay, so -1/2 x plus 2, right there. -1/2 times 2, we're using 2 for x. That's -1 plus 2 is 1. Now this right here should be greater than. I'm going to do greater than or equal to because it's solid. So now we can go to our final answer. Our first line we already did earlier because that was considered, I consider that one easy because it's a vertical line. So x is greater than -2, and then we have y is greater than or equal to -1/2 x plus 2. Okay, so that's that problem. And we have one more. This time we have 3 lines. Oh boy. All right, no problem. That's line number 1. That's line number 2. And I'll call this one right here the horizontal one, which should be easy though, so that's good. Line number 3. Okay, let's start with line number 1 up here. If you look at it, it has a y-intercept of 3. And you're going up 1, right 1, so the slope is 1. So y-intercept, we said was 3, and we said the slope was 1. Let's do line number 2 right now, the slope and y-intercept while we're at it. Line number 2 has the same y-intercept. Okay. But this one is going down 3 and right 1, so it's going to have a slope of -3, and we said the same y-intercept of 3. Okay? Let's pick a test point. I'm going to go right here with 0, 0. Pick any point you want in the shaded region. Let's use that for our test point, 0, 0. When we test 0, 0, it must be true. Test 0, 0, it must be true. Test 0, 0 must be true. Again, this is in case you forget to do the shortcut, in case you forget how to do that. So for our first line, we have y. You don't know the sign yet. mx plus b, 1x plus 3. So just x plus 3. Replace the y with 0 and replace the x with 0. So 0. You don't know yet. You don't know what that is yet. 3. And now you'll see that's going to be less than. And it's just less than because it's dashed. Okay. On to the other equation. Y, we don't know the sign. mx plus b, so -3x plus 3. Replace the y with 0 and replace the x with 0. So 0, we don't know the sign yet. That's going to be -3 times 0 is 0, plus 3 is 3. Now line number 2 is solid, so it's going to be less than or equal to. Because 0 is less than 3, equal to because it's solid. Okay, now let's do line number 3. We haven't forgotten about line number 3. Since it's horizontal, it's going to be y. Either y equals a number or x equals either y equals a number or y is less than a number or y is greater than a number and so on, whenever it's horizontal. The number is going to be -4. If you look, you're shading above that, so that's -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's greater than. Okay? Or equal to, because it's solid. So now we can go to our final answer. Our first line, y is less than mx plus b, mx plus b, x plus 3. Our second line, y is less than or equal to mx plus b, -3x plus 3. Our final line, y is greater than or equal to -4. And that is the end of that lesson. That lesson was called Writing Systems of Inequalities.